Thank you very much, and thanks for the introduction. I am here today due to the good people that were placed in my life and into my career who saw fit to help me. And these people, this is part of my story concerning Oculus anyways, is that the video game world is very small. There's not very many people working in that world. It's akin to probably the size of Hollywood and the actors and the support staff for Hollywood. So it's pretty small. Everyone kind of knows each other. And I got the gig at Activision working on Guitar Hero through another person in gaming who recommended me. And in turn, I got recommended to Oculus from the people at Activision. So that's how it went down in my career. I mean, I know how to do the work. I'm a good programmer and a good engineer, and I'm highly trained and highly polished at skill set, but it was mostly the ability to get along with people and to get the support that I needed to make my career happen. So let me talk a little bit about the founding of Oculus as it pertains to what I just talked about here. I got a call from a guy named Greg Deutsch. Greg Deutsch was the chief legal counsel. Well, we worked in the intellectual property department at Activision, and Greg called me and said, "Hey, there's this guy named Brendan Uribe, and he's looking for a hardware engineer." And Brendan works in gaming also. But see, Brendan worked on the East Coast. I worked in LA. So two different arenas, right? So I didn't know him. And so he goes, he wants to talk to you. And I said, okay. So Brendan calls me and he says, hey, Jack, do you want to take a look at something that this guy named Palmer and another guy named John Carmack have been working on? And I said, yeah, I'll take a look at it. And so he books an appointment with me, comes in, and I have a studio, a lab really. It's near the Silicon Valley, and I was there at the time. And he goes, I want to show you this. So he brings it in, and this is before the company was founded. This was when Palmer was living in a trailer in front of Palmer Luckey was living in a trailer in front of his parents' house, inside of a camper, really. And the other guys all had jobs. So he comes to me and he goes, I want you to take a look at this. He comes in and he has this thing in his hand, this black thing. And I see that and I go, oh no, here we go. Looks like VR or something. And so I put it on and it was pretty good. I was pretty impressed with it. I'm not sure how it played out for gaming really, because video games aren't played inside a VR headset. They're played on a 2D monitor on a mobile device mostly now. So he brings it in, shows it to me, and he goes, do you think you could help us with this? And I'm always willing to help, especially if I get a recommendation from someone like Greg Deutsch of Activision or another. And I said, yeah, I'll help you out. What do you need me to do? And he goes, we need you to take this and make it so we can sell this. We're going to put this thing on Kickstarter. And I had no idea what Kickstarter was. I worked in traditional corporate entertainment stuff, and it doesn't work that way. There's set policies and procedures and so forth for these kinds of companies I worked in. I mean, it's like going to Microsoft. Everything's sort of set in its way and it has a bureaucratic sort of mechanism. And same with Activision. So he goes, you have to, can you make this? And I said, sure, I can make that. I said, how many do you need? And he goes, well, we're going to run the Kickstarter campaign. And then once we run the Kickstarter campaign, we'll determine how many starting orders. Well, the company, the campaign for the founding of Oculus was started before the company was even formed, before the other folks were there, other founders. And the Kickstarter, in particular, Kickstarter video was filmed at my place, my facility here. And so that's the sort of the founding of it. It's like it was very loose. Look up. We didn't have an office. They were kind of using my office and my facility at the time when they were pitching it to the VC people. So anyhow, we built the very first developer kit. We got it pre-funded with Kickstarter. Now Kickstarter is an escrow system where you don't get paid from the Kickstarter funds until you actually physically ship the item. So we successfully shipped it. As a matter of fact, we finished it in 3 months. From the time we hit the whiteboard to the time the thing was actually in shipping containers headed across the ocean was 3 months. We whipped it out. Now, this was a major effort on the team and myself to make sure this could happen. And also we had great partners in China. Here's the problem we had. One of the big problems we had was this, that it's such a small order, 10,000 pieces is tiny, that you're going to have a tough time finding a contract manufacturer. But I had a friend, and this friend had done a lot of the Guitar Hero work, which myself and another person, brought into her for her to manufacture. And it turned out to be the largest piece of business she ever had. So she kind of owed me a favor. So we bring the thing in there, and I show it to her, and she goes, I could tell by the look on her face she didn't want to do it, or this was going to be tough for her. So she made us pay her up front 50% down for 10,000 pieces. And it was about $1 million or something like that we had to come up with. So we did that. We launched it. We did 10,000 pieces, and then we oversold. We sold to 70,000 pieces before the team decided to stop producing it and move on to DK2, which came next. So the very first Oculus DK1 was 70,000 pieces for a net revenue of like $3.5 million. So the company was actually in the black we had headcount was about 10 or 15 people. It's not very small. So the other founders, Nate Mitchell in particular, who did a spectacular job on the Kickstarter, directing the Kickstarter video, came in I'd say August. I came in June. Mike Antonoff came in. Well, he was living on the East Coast, so he came in a little bit later, and a couple other people there, but basically the entire founding team was there and working, from pretty much from the beginning, somewhere around there. But a lot of my participation in this was spent managing the production and manufacturing and materials and sorting through the shipping and logistics and so forth. That was my job there. And the design work, it's basically a pretty cut and dried. It's a scaler and a little display you buy. And for DK1 anyways, it was just that pretty simple thing. But what was surprising was the buzz and interest in it. I was surprised at how well with the marketing and sales campaign was done, and the buzz was done by Nate Mitchell and Brendan Uribe. They were just really, really good. And I attribute a lot of the success of the company to the story they constructed about Palmer. And it's a very endearing story. The guy's 19 years old. Starts this company based on something he's working on in his parents' house. It wasn't in his parents' house, it was in a trailer, but it's a very endearing story, and everyone wants to see him succeed. He's a nice guy. So that's the beginning of it. I'll talk a little bit about what happened after DK1 and that it goes this way. DK1 comes along, finishes sales. We start working on DK2, which has a fixed vision system tracking with embedded markers underneath the plastic. It's a plastic piece with these little lights underneath it and a camera, and you're supposed to use it from the seated position. We were trying to fix some issues with vestibular illness. And so we did so by getting rid of the tracking system from the first developer kit and coming up with a new one. So the team worked on that. I had not much to do with the design of that. A lot of the coding and so forth was done by, I think it was Mike Abrash in Seattle, guy in Seattle, but the vision system, the SDK was Mike Antonoff team. So software developer kits, what you need to integrate with a game. But at the time, I didn't see, aside from cockpit games, to be honest with you, I didn't see or how it was going to fit into the market. And the changing landscape of video games. I'll talk a little bit about Meta, and then I'll get back to this subject, because Meta is Facebook's renaming. They want to build the metaverse, right? So they have this thing called Horizon Worlds. And it's a collection of areas that you can go around and do things in and meet people and socialize and so forth in a VR headset. Kind of a cool idea. The problem with that is the entertainment value is not high. A video game has to tell a story. It's goal oriented. A video game has to be goal. You have to have a target goal. Take the enemy off the hill, or catch the bad guy, or whatever it is. Red Dead Redemption or some, it has to have a goal of some sort. And it just doesn't. Horizon Worlds does not have that. And I just don't see how people are going to stick to it. It's got some of the social part of it. A lot of the things that people miss about video games is they are social. You get online with teams of people and you're playing, and people in Russia, and there's people in, in Australia. You're all on the same team playing for a common goal, and it's social. So people miss that. And Meta does not have these things. I'm struggling to see where they're going to take this technology with Oculus, and how they're going to integrate it long term, or what they've learned from it. And you see, Facebook has never been a video game company with directors and producers and artists and things that you expect to see in a studio. It doesn't have those kinds of things. So this is kind of the issue with Meta. So let me go back to what I said about my opinions on DK1 and DK2. I didn't think that it was going anywhere. And we've been in the business for 40 years, and I can kind of tell by now how it's going to do. Not always, but I've got a pretty good track record. I'm greater than 50%, which is like a coin toss, right? No, it's better than 50%. So I just didn't see where it was going. So Facebook buys our company. First of all, I started noticing Andreessen Horowitz, which is one of Facebook's early investors, coming in and talking to Brendan. And I knew at that time that there was something up. And I didn't know exactly what, because it was kept just a few people knew about it. I think it was just Brendan and maybe one other person. I started noticing him around, and then Mark Zuckerberg shows up in Irvine, California, it's down south, Southern California, shows up and is very interested in the thing. So there I am. I'm traveling back and forth to China and traveling to Irvine, flying around the world, and I'm laying in my hotel room. It's like 3:00 in the morning in China. And he calls me and he goes, "Guess what?" And I go, "What?" I said, "It's 3:00 in the morning." He goes, "Congratulations." I go, "What?" He goes, "We just sold the company." And right then I knew I was headed out of the business. I didn't want to go to Facebook. That's who we sold it to. I didn't want to work there. I don't know how I would fit in there, what I would do. Sometimes what happens is if you go into a situation like that and you're not comfortable with what your activity will be, you don't last long. They get rid of you or you quit. And I just didn't want to have that kind of an optional spread in front of me. I just wanted to call it clean. And Brendan, fortunately for me, let me keep all my investment and leave. When you do a startup, let me back up a little bit and talk about funding, because I sort of alluded to Andreessen Horowitz there. Andreessen Horowitz is a venture capital firm. It's one of the largest venture capital firms in the world, and they funded Facebook, many other companies, Snap, other businesses. So they provide the capital to get the business going and ensuring they take shares. So for instance, if they gave us $100 million, let's say, their expectation is they'll get whatever the evaluation of the company is, they'll get their portion of it. So that's the way it goes. And myself and Brendan and Mike Antonoff are the only three people of the founders who had any money. And we put skin in the game, which is money. And so when you have investors coming in, you have to have skin in the game, which just means you have to provide proof that you're going to make a sacrifice to put your own money in there and that you believe in the thing. So often, though, younger people do a startup because we don't have any money, right? I mean, it's just starting out. So we put skin in the game, and Andreessen Horowitz could see that, and we were serious. Which was an interesting story, is that it's called friends and family, right? So I go to my brother, and I go to my sister, and I go to my friend, and I go, "Hey, if you put in $5,000 a piece, I don't know what's going to happen. You can put in $5,000 or $7,500, $70,500 or $5,000. I don't know what's going to happen. You may lose it all. If you want to try it, go ahead." Well, one person put in 5,000, the other one put in 7,500. another person 5,000. That $7,500 turned into $980,000. So these people around me in the periphery all had a windfall from the sale of Oculus, which is a great thing. One person in particular who worked for me, she didn't have any stock, so I just offered her that, and lo and behold, she did pretty well. I was pretty happy with the outcome of that, to see people benefiting from the stuff that I've done. So anyhow, that's how it kind of went down with Oculus. They came out with a consumer version, CV1, and then the Oculus Quest and the Oculus Quest Pro, Oculus Gear VR. So that's the evolution of it. Again, I don't know where Facebook's, what their goals are exactly with this. I don't see Horizon Worlds as a good outcome for the tech that myself and the other founders invented. I think it's not the best outlet. It's great in design and so forth like that. I think it's great for architecture and science and so forth, but I don't see the fit in gaming. And so let me just talk about what I'm working on now. I pivoted about 5 years ago towards a couple of things. One is internet security, cyber attacks and cyber warfare, drone abatement. And the other one is the environmental component of electric vehicles, like how electric vehicles work, how the powertrains work and the motors work. And that's currently what I do. I teach that at UC Berkeley. I'm the building that sits behind me, I helped build. It's a makerspace on campus, and I actually teach in the basement way down below. But there's a classroom down there, and I teach, it's called electric mobility, and that's how electric vehicles work. How you design the batteries, how you design the electric motors, how the physics of the electric motors work, how the physics of the batteries, the power, and so forth. That's what I'm doing there. It's a great space. Now, Berkeley is a type of school. It's like a teaching school. It teaches people how to teach. And this is a makerspace, which is more of a hands-on thing. And I noticed that in hiring engineers in the last 10 years of my career, that a lot of them didn't have any hand skills, like they don't know how to use tools and so forth. This is a problem with primary education. But so this place is like an advanced version of that with 3D printers and so forth. So that's what I'm doing now. I also was asked if I were going to do any kind of, if I were going to do a startup, what would it be? And I would work in mobility and battery technology. That's where I would be right now, being a hardware engineer, because I think it's the area of highest growth potential. Europe is banning gasoline-powered cars within cities by 2035. And that sounds like a long time away, but it's not. And there's plenty of opportunity there for inventing things and building things that you could then sell to, let's say, a General Motors, routing and guidance systems, so forth, these kinds of things, autonomous algorithm, autonomous software, and so forth. So that's where I would be working. On the cybersecurity and drone abatement, these drones, now watch these videos in Ukraine, and they're buying, the Ukrainians are buying these drones like on Amazon, their version of Amazon, and putting munitions on them and flying them over Russian troops and releasing the munitions. I mean, it's such a low-tech weapon in some ways, but it is, but it isn't. I mean, that's a threat to us here. Somebody told me, and I can't say who, where they took a drone and they shipped it from France to the United States, and they launched it here using a mobile device and flew it around. So you could potentially do an attack stateside here from another part of the world. You wouldn't have to be physically present on the ground. And these things can also hibernate. They can sit in a box for like 5 years. You could just ship it during peaceful times and leave it in the box and then launch it later on. So that's an area where I worked on. I built a drone gun for shooting them down with radio waves and some other sort of semi-clever jamming devices and so forth for getting rid of the drone, the drones. The particular drone that's particularly dangerous is the DJI drones, with a sophisticated protocol, almost military grade protocol in it. So that's currently what I'm working on. So, and I think that I will sort of, if possible, pitch this out there for questions. Anyone have any questions? No? I can talk about Guitar Hero. Yes.
Can you hear? So, I mean, it was really a very fascinating journey that you shared with us. I was just wondering that what was the hardest part when you were negotiating with your product and your company that you built with the Facebook, and what you recommend as an entrepreneur to the incoming young entrepreneurs have what to do in that case?
Well, I didn't do the negotiations for that. I'm not the right person for that task. The guy we had doing that was Brendan Aribe, and he's really, really good. He's naturally good at it. He's just a natural. But Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, he's got a lot of bad press. The guy does, right? It's not deserving. He's a really, really good businessman. He's very talented. I mean, you look at Twitter. Take a look at Twitter's profit. In the last 10 years, Twitter has made money 2 years. Despite revenue growth, they never make money. Facebook has actually made a profit. And that's why, Facebook's number one, right? Well, they actually made a profit. So Mark Zuckerberg's a very good businessman. So you're asking me for advice for young people. If you're going to try to sell your business to someone like Mark Zuckerberg, who's sharp, I would get some help. You might have to give them some stock options. If you're not comfortable with negotiating, try to find someone who's good at it. When I was at Guitar Hero, working on Guitar Hero, we were a startup company. I was not a founder of Guitar Hero. I was an engineer, head engineer. We went out and recruited a CEO because we had to sell a hardware component to companies that make software. That's very tough. They just don't know how to deal with hardware. The cost structure of hardware is very expensive. They don't know how to deal with it. So we went out and we hired Kelly Sumner from Take-Two. Take-Two is a video game company. Kelly Sumner's a Brit. We hired him. Bang, nailed it. I mean, basically pitched the company, sold it, picked up his check. And that's the other thing, is I stayed in touch with that guy too. I really liked him. He's like dealing with General Patton. He's like a commander kind of guy. But find someone like that. The guys that were running Guitar Hero knew they couldn't do it. They knew their strengths and weaknesses. It's important. You got to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. They knew what they were, and they recruited him. He went out and sold it to Activision in a matter of about 8 months or something like that. But Kelly's the guy. Kelly Sumner is the CEO. He's the guy that introduced me to Guitar Hero, and I met him through someone else, who we then hired. Another Take-Two guy. Take-Two's a video game company. Another Take-Two guy came in and ran the hardware there at Red Octane at Guitar Hero. So, but get help, get advice, get a mentor, find someone to bounce your ideas off of, and then follow the feedback. I mean, you don't have to follow it verbatim, but try to follow it as best you can. That's my suggestion. Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to ask about your opinion on what do you think is your most valuable skill set through the whole journey, from the startup development until the final selling of the final product? And I'm talking about soft skills and hard skills. Like, what's your honest opinion on that?
Very good question. You brought up soft skills. These are Iklek Sidhu from UC Berkeley coined that term. I think he was the guy, but it's been around. People skills are important. Motivating a staff that sometimes can be unmotivated without being critical or injurious to the morale it's tough. It's a tough spot to be in. In my case, I'm highly educated. I went to the best university in the United States, public university, allegedly the best. It's probably number 2 or something like now, but I got a really, really great education in California when California had the best public education system in the United States. I'm very fortunate. Very rigorous, very hard, hardcore engineering and physics and math and science. I was completely polished and ready to go when I left the university. That's why I work there now, because I want to get back. I work at UC Berkeley. So that's what I got. I got a good education. There are lots of great programmers, my friend. They are, but there's very few that are programmers and also the ability to motivate and get a team to do the work. Not too many of those. And I think that's in my skill set. I'm a great programmer, but I'm also pretty good at getting things done. And very quickly, I'm very fast at what my work output's very high because I'm fast. And that's also learned. The slow guys, in a race, the slow guys don't win. So thank you. I'll take more questions.
No, I think there's no more questions. So I take this opportunity to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.